Today, we're going to uncover a story that's written right into the British landscape itself. And trust me, it's a story that will completely change how you see every single field, forest, and path you ever walk through again.
So, when you look out at England's green and pleasant land, what is it you really see? Rolling hills, ancient woods, a timeless, natural scene, right? Well, what if I told you that almost none of it is actually wild at all?
Okay, so here's the big reveal, and it might be a bit of a shocker. Pretty much every habitat in Britain has been seriously shaped by people. See, after the last ice age, the whole place was covered in what we call the wildwood. But that's just not what we see today. Instead, we're living in a landscape that was born from a partnership with nature, a partnership that's thousands of years old. So, how on earth did this happen? Let's wind the clock all the way back to the beginning to see how our ancestors didn't just stumble upon these iconic landscapes, they literally made them. Our story really kicks off about 4,000 years ago. This is when our predecessors started creating tools that let them clear that original wildwood, opening up the land for the very first farms, and, in doing so, changing the face of the island forever. And this diagram, it lays it out perfectly. I mean, think about the classic English grassland. It all started when the trees were cleared. Then grass started to move into that open space. Livestock were brought in to graze, which, stopped any new trees from growing back. And finally, cutting the grass for hay put a stop to the whole natural cycle of regeneration. And the result? A completely human-made environment. But grassland wasn't the only landscape born from all this ancient activity. Lowland heath, another one of Britain's most iconic habitats, has the exact same origin story. It's not natural, but it is definitely ancient. The key difference here, really, was the soil. When our ancestors cleared woodland that was sitting on rich soil, they got that lush grassland. But on poor, acidic, sandy soils, well, something totally different happened. Grass just couldn't get a good foothold. So instead, these hardy specialists like heather and gorse moved in, creating the amazing heathland ecosystem we know and love today. All right, so that's the ancient history. But our job as landscape shapers hasn't stopped, not by a long shot. Here in the 21st century, our impact has gotten a whole lot more complex, with both good and, well, not so good consequences. And this is a really crucial point. Not all human intervention is the same. To really get this, let's just compare two very, very different ways that we manage our woodlands today. On one hand, you've got conifer plantations. A lot of these were planted back in the 1950s when timber was seen as this huge economic necessity. But these forests, planted in their neat little rows, they aren't natural ecosystems. They're basically a crop, just a crop of timber, and the trees themselves are totally alien to the local ecology. And the effect on the ecosystem, wow, it is stark. This data from Sidmouth shows that native broadleaf woodlands can support around 80 different specialist plant species. And the conifer plantations? A big, fat zero. Their dense canopy and non-native trees just create a totally hostile environment for local wildlife. Okay, but what about a positive example? Let's talk about scrub. This is the kind of habitat we often just dismiss as messy or untidy, a sign that things are kind of getting out of control. But that whole idea, it's completely wrong. The reality is, scrub is this incredibly important dynamic habitat. It's that transition zone between open ground and woodland, and it acts like a biodiversity umbrella. It provides food, shelter, and really importantly, its dense, thorny thickets offer safe nesting sites for specialist birds like the nightingale, which, by the way, simply can't survive anywhere else. So we've looked at ancient man-made habitats and modern ones. But you know what? The story has one more big twist. We're about to find vibrant nature in the most artificial places of all. We're talking about brownfield sites. Now, this doesn't just mean old industrial land. The term covers any kind of artificial area. Parks, gardens, old railway lines, even the little grassy bits along the edges of roads. You might think these places are basically ecological deserts, but you would be very, very wrong. I mean, the data is just astonishing. Across the brownfield sites they surveyed in just one town, Sidmouth, researchers found 219 different species of wildflowers. These so-called weeds, they find a home everywhere, in the corners of flower beds, on grassy banks, and along the edges of paths. It's incredible. And hey, where you find flowers, you're going to find other wildlife. The same survey found an unbelievable diversity of insect life thriving in these urban spaces. We're talking 30 species of butterfly, 23 species of fly, and 14 species of bee and wasp. These artificial sites are literally buzzing with life. So, what does all of this actually mean? How do we connect all these different pieces? The ancient heath, the modern park, the managed scrub? Well, it all comes down to seeing the landscape as one big connected thing. Here's the most important takeaway. These habitats do not exist in isolation. They form a living, breathing network. Every single piece, from an ancient man-made heath to a messy patch of scrub or even a modern town garden, it all plays a vital role in this massive, interconnected web. Our role in this whole partnership is really threefold. First, it's about seeing that 4,000-year human story that's written in the land all around us. Second, it's about reevaluating and actually valuing those messy and artificial spaces for all the life they support. And finally, it's recognizing that even our own gardens aren't isolated islands. They are crucial links in this much wider ecological network. This just reframes our entire idea of nature, doesn't it? It's not some separate wilderness that's out there for us to visit. It's right here. It's in the parks, the road verges, and the gardens you see every single day. A landscape we've been co-creating for thousands of years. So the only question left is, what part will you play in this ancient partnership?